Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Today's subject, what is today, the 9th of September? My goodness, it was, not to change the subject, but 9/9 was the biggest fundraiser we ever had for Imam Jamil. It was the University of down in Southern California. And this is one we raised $100,000 cash. We had Ahmed Sakr, what's the pretty boy from California? That's him. Oh, Hamza Yusuf. We had, well, he used to be pretty boy. He's getting a little elderly now. But we had everybody there. And they was all pushing the program. I remember that's where I gave the talk on, part of my talk was about a Japanese holdout in the Philippines during World War II. And I had read the story because, see, when I was younger, they was always finding like 1959 and all of those years when I was a teenager. Is that a desk to pinch out? They was still finding in the Philippines and other parts of that part of the world holdouts from World War II. When I was 14 and 15, now this one that I was talking about, I was very impressed because he was found in the Philippines. You could see his hat it had all those years of work. And they told him the war was over and, it's been 25 years or something like that. He said, that ain't nothing. He said, I'll surrender my sword when you bring me the officer that put me on this post. And they said back to Japan, they found out who was, he came and he surrendered his sword. It was a big deal. Well, to everybody else, it wasn't a big deal, but you could see in the newspaper him handing over his sword to his officer with his hat all, his uniform. It was 25 years of work. He'd been living in the jungle. 75, 45, 55, 65, 30 years. 75, 30 years. And that impressed me with stickability, the ability to hold on. That's the type of character we was talking about in those days. That's the type of character we want in our organization. Is that you're able to stick. You got to, just to want to do it is enough. You don't have to live up to that high caliber, But if you want to do that type of thing, maybe you can't hold out 30 years, but you can hold out 5 years. You can hold out 20 years. And I was talking about that is because in the movement, we learned years ago that some people could take it a few years, it would seem to be a number at 5 years, like if at about 5 years, in and around that period, people would either give up or change. Now you got to remember what we're talking about in the movement. If you're talking about 64 and 65 when they get rolling, so 5 years is only 1970. But if you notice our movement, that was it. Like they didn't have no more long hot summers after 1970. You never hear about them up in the 70s. They made movies about him, a couple of movies, black movies, but it was nothing like that going on. And everybody had changed. They'd put, what's the name, was getting ready to be put in the penitentiary, the Blackstone Rangers. Jeff Ford, Jeff Ford was in the penitentiary with me. He was in Leavenworth with me in the 70s. I got to Leavenworth probably 75. I was there at 75 and 76. And he was there all of that time for taking government money. There was a few other people from those type of organizations that had, even the Black Panther Party in Oakland had swallowed the pill of, like, okay, we'll take money from the government. Well, the government is not going to finance a revolution against itself. They're just not going to do that. But the thing is that everybody didn't know that, or they acted like they didn't know it, or by that time they didn't care, because everybody was brokenhearted, and they didn't have the opportunity that the Chinese had, that the Vietnamese had. The Chinese had, during 1934 and 35, they had the Long March. They marched all over the place. It's like marching to California and back, all the time fighting a defensive battle. And you would go through the same type of a country that you went. They had summer uniforms on, and they went all up in the Chinese Rockies and them high mountains and through mountain gorges. Hey man, they had to fight they're fighting all the time now. And in China, they have some of the famous battles, the three gorges. They cross Run River 3 or 4, I think it was 4 times they had to cross it back and forth and different things. They had one of the big gorges when they had to take a drawbridge. And all of that was very inspirational. Here in America, we didn't have that opportunity. When I say opportunity, that means that we didn't have any place to hide and run and get ourselves together, or we didn't have Sierra Madres like Fidel Castro, where you get a chance to go in the mountains and be able to put a package together and go and raise a little army and then a bigger army. We didn't have none of those chances. We had none of those opportunities. That's why we should never be hard on ourselves for not following through on the rebellion. We didn't have any chance. Not that everybody can see you wherever you go. If you're black, you can only hide in the black community. And if you got every 4th person is a government agent, not every 4th person, but every 4th person does something, and if you're hiding from the government, they know that they can get a meal ticket by turning you in. So that means at least every 4th person was leaning in that direction. Although the discussion was black power, all power to the people, those things were very, very nice and what have you. It was really an inspirational period to be alive. But once we left here and got a chance to travel around the world, when we looked at every revolution or every decolonization struggle, this is the first thing we realized. We didn't have an opportunity at a protracted struggle. And that's what Chairman Mao always talked about, was a protracted struggle, a long-range struggle. And that's why Martin Luther King, in his last big speech, he said longevity has its place. He was very clear. And you could tell by looking at him that he had got that call from somebody. You know the call when you know this is it. This is the one. You're not going to be around much longer. And like the person that get the call, he knows that, and you could see on his face, it wasn't he was tired, he knew that everything he said, I've been to the mountaintop, I may not get there with you, you know what I mean, but my people will get to the promised land, all that type of stuff. That means he was clear that he ain't going, whatever it is, he ain't going to make it. This was his idea. Not only that, Malcolm had told him when they had that meeting, they showed Malcolm and King with that big brotherly meeting. Malcolm told him, he said, well, Malcolm called him a glorious fool. You're a glorious fool. And then Malcolm told him, he said, one thing about it, me and you ain't going to be here no time. So he said, whatever happened. So Malcolm could see that. He said, hey, man, and that meeting was in about 65, so he was about ready there, 64, 65. The point is, the talk today is about lower your bucket. Lower your bucket comes from, in the day of sailing ships, there was two ships that met each other out on the ocean, and one was out of fresh water. And they called out to the other one, we need, fresh water. And the captain, that long, he said, lower your bucket. I think I mentioned this many times, but it's very important. He said, we need fresh water. He said, lower your bucket. And after the third time, the guy said, well, I'll lower it. So he got the idea that they were at the headwaters of the Amazon River. That's the biggest river in the world. So all the water, before you can even see land, the water is all fresh water. It could be at the Mississippi. If you're around New Orleans, you could lower your bucket because it's a fresh water from the Mississippi. Well, it's a little muddy looking, but it's still not salty. So all the way out, way before, of course, the Amazon is the biggest river in the world. The flow of the Amazon is about 60 times that of either the Nile or the Mississippi, one of those. But it's draining water. When I visited Machu Picchu, that's the lost city of the Incas, there's a river called the Urubamba River. That river is 15,000 feet up in the Andes, and a city called Machu Picchu. I don't know if y'all ever heard of it. This is a lost city of the Incas, where the nobles ran away from Cusco, the capital, and they built this city up in the mountains. You couldn't see the city from, if you were walking on the path down by the river, you couldn't see the city up there. But anyway, it was up there, and that reminded me of the Urubamba River. It's a river running right by there. That's 4,000 miles from that's up in Peru, come to think of it. Yeah, it's up in Peru. And that river is the headwater of the Amazon. So the point is the size of the Amazon and the flow of water. We're a movement or an organization. And we always have to think of that idea, lower your bucket. When you want fresh water, lower your bucket. In other words, the things that we might hope for and want, those things may not be designed for us. may be designed for someone else. Some people, they get a chance to start a movement, they get a chance to do all of that. Well, here in America, you're not going to get a chance to start a movement because the United States government got everything closed off for a movement. We realized that when we got to doing this. We realized this when we opened the Masjid in Oakland in 1980, that we're going to have a different approach, but we have to still test our environment. Test our environment means we come out, we're Muslims, we want to have a place to worship Allah, and at the same time they have a revolution in Iran, and they happen to, we get to working together. And when we get together working with them, that means that we all of a sudden we're working with Lebanese. So at Juma in Oakland in the 80s, you might come, it might be, we might ask someone, a Pakistani brother, we might ask a Shia brother from the Indian community or from Lebanon. Or if we had a program, we look at our old stuff, we have Lebanese brothers, we were very multicultural community. But we know what that meant. We already knew what that meant. So we've had several cycles of development here because even though we may ascertain from the very beginning that that's probably not going to work during this period, during this time, but we still have to give it a try. You know, we have to give it the old college try. So that means that we have to give the open, on the surface try to make this, it's our right in America, right? It's the right time to do it because the African American movement is dead. But that idea of movement by the late 70s and early 80s, that the discussion, the ideas is still in the people. You know, it's not a dead letter like it is now. People don't even remember what you're talking about. But at that time, which was over 40 years ago, people knew what it meant and the language. So, and also, when people heard about Islam, Islam had a revolutionary characteristic in those days. Islam was thought of as a black religion. When anybody thought about Islam, they didn't think about Arabs and Pakistanis. They thought about black people. And that come from first the Nation of Islam and then the Sunni communities in New York and here and the new developed Middle East Coast. The Sunni community, when we opened up on the West Coast, that was the first, that was one more masjid, so-called Sunni Masjid, down in L.A. But they were Saudi type, guys. And then when we cranked up in Oakland, you would have to say that we were the only revolutionary, type masjid, that was incorporating all of the things that we had learned. That's why in 82, when we invited Imam Jamil to come out, when we invited the last poets to come out, we had a program at the Oakland Auditorium, and that place was packed for Imam Jamil and the last poets. And there was Iranians there. And when the brothers would turn around and look at the sisters up there, they would look and see, you might have to catch me a little later because I'm right in the middle of this, inshallah. Okay, all right. All right, well, inshallah. Okay, all right, sure, all right. So we had the program at the Oakland Auditorium. Actually, Imam Waratadin Muhammad was there, and there was an argument whether because we prayed up on the stage. Now imagine in '82, the black people there, the place is packed, and they're not anywhere, they don't understand nothing about the Sunnah. All they heard is black nationalism, but and the poets are there, they kicked the door down. They did a good job. Gendarme, armed gin, all that. They did a good job. Suleiman Al-Hadi and them. Now, I know they had two different groups around here that was talking about they was poets. But Brother Jalil Umar and Suleiman Al-Hadi and a couple, they the ones came out to Oakland. And that put us on the map. I mean, the place was full. Can you imagine? Not only African Americans, but all the Iranians came. And then the whole balcony was where the Iranian sisters were sitting, and some of them was white, and everybody was looking up. They didn't even know it was such thing as a white Muslim. You know what I mean? This is how, and they didn't know the difference between the Iranian and white, no way, because some Iranians look white, Boy, but it was a big show. It was a big show. And technically it put us on the map, and some of the brothers from Imam Jamil's community came out. It was fine. We did several programs after that. But the point is that what we were pushing was a revolutionary style. We was pushing the evolution of Islam. From freedom rides, you know what I mean, and all of that to black power, black liberation, and finally Islam. That's exactly what that this is a natural progress. And that program in '82, it showed, that that's where it was, that Islam is it. And Islam and all the programs we had, the flyers from those days went through the process of clarifying what Islam is, and what faith is, for black people. And so this concept of lower your bucket, we've always been in that process of trying to take full advantage of the environment that we're in, right? Taking advantage of the environment that we're in, also looking to our own resources and all of that type of thing. Now remember, all of this is stuff we're doing ourselves. So all the tickets to bring out the poets and we're paying for all that ourselves. We're raising all that money ourselves. We don't have technically, we don't even hardly ask for any specific foreign support for at least 30 years, Although we got assistance from here. Our program was this: wherever we go, we take boxes and we raise funds to pay for the Masjid in Oakland. We went around and, actually, if you wanted not the glory stage, but that was a wonderful period about Islam in America. And the immigrant community, we raised 80 or 90% of our money from the immigrant community. In other words, we went to, they didn't have any of this big stuff they got now. Most of it was MSA. Like if we went went up to Portland, Oregon, they had a nice masjid on the side of the hill where they prayed all the time. It was a big house, like had been a big house, but it was nice. And when they have Jummah, they would have it downstairs at the university. Like if it's a chapel upstairs, they'd have it downstairs in an auditorium or what have you. And in those days, everybody that lived in the community, if they were Muslims, they came to that Jummah because they didn't have a lot of the Masjid in America that was immigrant Masjid. They started in and around campuses. And then later on in the late 80s and early 90s, they started this MCA, Muslim Community Association, where the Muslims would be out in the community now. Remember, they're on the campus and they've graduated and they're doctors so-and-so. And so now they have to have, this is where ISNA come in, Islamic Society of North America, instead of MSA. Up to 1983, it was Muslim Students Association. Now the MSA is a part of whatever they call it, ISNA, right? And the other group, ICNA, Islamic Circle of North America, those are followers of Maulana Maududi. They still are, basically. When Maulana Maududi came here in 1972, he met with a lot of the brothers from here. In fact, the Islamic Party, that's where they got their inspiration. One of the main sources of inspiration was Maulana Maududi and Ikhwan al-Muslimin. And they did a good job. They was really, they made a big step. That was a big step. Then the Dar al-Islam movement, that was more local. But I'd like to just regress and talk about the Dar a little bit. The Dar al-Islam movement was mainly in New York. It had place here. It had a few places on the East Coast. But the Dar al-Islam movement was so infiltrated they couldn't even believe it. In fact, some of the people that was in the Dar was trying to convince me, even up into the 80s, when the Dar was brought down in the early 80s, they was trying to convince me how it happened. And one of the guys who was one of the main ones, he was, you could see him, and even if you wanted to see him now, he's running around, He used to do a lot of dawah in prisons. In those days, the Dar al-Islam didn't take money for going in prisons. And they was going in the prisons in New York. I spent time with those same people in 87, the whole summer in 87, at the ISNA headquarters, taking a course in Islam. Believe it or not, I learned a lot in that course, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I learned a lot in that course. It was unbelievable. And I would even go and say that I technically enjoyed it. I met people from over here, like Faisal Khan and all of them. And I met all the ISNA people. That's where I got a picture of exactly what ISNA was. And I noticed who came in at some of the morning prayers and wanted to give a little talk. They might be Kwanis and they might be, this type. and some of the lecturers. I tell you, one of the guys who came was Adam al-Sheikh. I don't know if you know the Sudanese brother from here. Adam al-Sheikh, he's, okay. He used to be a judge in the Sudan. And anyway, a lot of the brothers, that was helpful for us. But even by 87, I was on the list. ISNA knew who I was, and they, I was targeted, that by them. They was going to do this. This is what they wanted to do with Imam Musa. And they had it all set up for me to get married to this was a 17-year-old girl. They figured they'd say, no, high yellow, smart, very smart. Down in, I ain't gonna say where, because then you could figure out who it was. But she was part of the Muslim MENA, is that it? MENA, that type. And I listened to her talk, I said, yeah. And then when I visited the Negro Imam from here, he was at New York, the one with the reddish stuff. He said, I visited him right after that. He says, why you don't marry that girl? Because see, they hook you up. They hook you up. Most people would think the government is not going to marry people and get them divorced. The government do that. That's what they do. And, whoever they're told to marry, they marry. And one of our great personalities, when he was on the run, he realized, I know when he realized it for sure, who his Zoj was. Yeah, no doubt about it. He was don't give her no more money, give it to so-and-so now. Fine. Too late, I done gave him everything, the $1 zillion, cash money. He never, my idea about that was, I'm not going to get involved in the nickel and dime Negro stuff. I can see what it is. So I'm going to raise as much money as I can for the case. Because if I were to mess with them Negroes, I wouldn't want to do nothing. Because it wouldn't be. Anyway, so all over the years, this longevity teaches you the processes that they have. And they strategically locate that it's a miracle anybody would survive. We're a miracle. We're a big, big miracle. Don't let nobody tell you all them just niggas sitting around talking. That's not true. It's not true at all. We're acting like, the water's fine, jump on in. But we know what they did to, technically we're a blessed community. We're very, very blessed because there's nobody else doing what we do or nobody else talking like we talk. There's nobody else that's been around as long. There's people been around, but they ain't been doing what we've been doing. They haven't been saying what we've been saying, and they haven't had the experience, and they haven't had 95% of ability is stickability, the ability to hold on. That's why I like that Japanese guy that turned over his sword. He said, you want my sword? You call my commander that put me on this post. That's the way I feel about this post. The only way I'm getting off this post is somebody come and they got a card or something on that is glowing. It comes from I'm coming from Allah, and Allah sent me to tell you this, that, and another. That's the only way I'm leaving the post. This is the way it go. That's the way it is. And I like it like that. It don't make no difference if people be judging. Oh, you have a full house one day and the next day won't nobody talk to you. It don't make no difference. This is our job. Imagine if we was in Bosnia, what the job would be. That job. Everybody look at our job and say, man, ain't nobody never slipped up on boss man. Well, that was in boss man's heyday. That's when when his sails was wide open, he catching all the wind. That was during his time. Now, anything associated with him is headed down. We're here now at the right time. That was a time when the Zionists could do anything in the world. They steal the people's land and make it, and now they can't do nothing right. There's a whole group of brothers dug their way out of the penitentiary, maximum security with a spoon. The spoon, what did they do with the dirt? You gotta, what are you gonna do? How, what? And I'm thinking, boy, them boys hooked that up. It might have been like another thing. They used to put it in their pants and go out and shake it out on the. But was it concreto out there where they was walking on the yard? How often they go out? You know what I mean? And they shake you down coming in, but not going out. So, whatever it was, they didn't already won that. If they get caught, all of them tomorrow, which I don't believe they'll get caught. But if it's one or two, I don't believe all six of them because they done already separated by now. They done already separated a long time ago. And they got many places to go. So, but you got to remember, this is a long line of humiliations. And they're out in the open about the Zionists. They're saying, yeah, we did this, we bombed Iran, this, that, and the other, right? Everybody know, and it's all right. Right? It's okay, it's fine. So it's not hidden information, it's open, clear information. Okay, now we have a program that when stuff happens with us, we know it's out in the open. We force it out in the open. We like our job. I don't know if I would like to do this in Chechnya. Maybe, but it's cold over there. In Chechnya, they'd have you could see in Grozny, all the houses was bombed out and they living out in the open in that weather. I know probably we might say, I don't know, I'll see you next week, that fair weather revolutionary right after the spring. After the spring, or in the summer, because the spring up there is still, it ain't warm enough. If we was choosing anybody, look at what we deal with here, it's impossible. That's why it's our job. It's our job because this is our environment. And what we do, we're used to it. And when we talk about lower your bucket, we're here, we can lower our bucket here because for us here, all of that water everything coming is fresh water. For somebody else, it may just not be, you know what I mean? They wouldn't, you could see immigrants and others, they're not into doing nothing here. Either they wasn't built for it, or they look at me like I'm crazy, and they're certain. And everything we try to do to help them, you go back, they got 9/11 coming up. When 9/11 come up, we went out there as a group to help all of them. And that was it. They didn't want us around no more. They had a different idea. We're going to go. They said, over Dar Hijra, they said, we're going to have American women and Muslim women, the American women, the white women, they're going to put on hijab and stand out in front of Dar al-Hijra. and protect us. I said, so you stay behind. The Quran just mentioned staying behind with who? Who stays behind? It's not bad, but it's the girls, right? And when you organize on certain levels, the first level is the men. The next level is the young people, like especially young boys. You know what I mean? The third level of is when the women come in. If you're gonna fight to the last, that's them. Then, but if you want to stay behind in the first group, you stay behind with them. Is what the Quran says, right? That's what they said. And you know the word Qawam. I said the Quran don't say that. When I told them that over there, they thought this is a new revelation. What? They looked at me, a Negro, like that's really there. Men are the protectors and maintainers of women. You can't hide behind your mama's skirt, other girls. You can't do it. I'm telling you, they so far gone. I sit there and looked at them, and then they had that line congressman used to come over there. I forget his name. He's come over there and talk, and the brothers were so impressed that he was stuttering when he would introduce, and he would use Prophet Muhammad in the place of Allah and Allah in the place of Prophet. And he's Syrian. He knows this stuff. He's the chief over there. So these guys, and of course, we wasn't liked. And at the same time, the whole crew, they liked everybody that was useless. They loved Nihad over there. You want to have a fundraiser? $1 billion. Y'all can do y'all can pick up the garbage and stuff and walk past one time, but you can't be, after a while they didn't want us to be seen too much. Because in the big demonstration, we were always seen. Remember that? We all there in black, and no matter, the brothers used to get mad at Marty Bray and those guys, because they were, I'll get back to the subject, but it's all part of it. Those guys were like, okay, we would handle the stage. Okay, now remember people would hand us their babies. They'd take a picture, and we was known as the men in black. And everybody liked us. They said, that's it for them niggas. That's it. So the point was, I would tell the brothers, I said, don't worry about it. They would be like, you got to get rid of so-and-so over there. I said, don't worry about it. They got to give you more time to speak. Not necessary. So, if we had the demonstration down there, one of the last big demonstrations, when there was 500,000 people down there, right? Okay, it was 500,000 people down on the mall. That's serious. Okay. And they was acting like, I told the white folks, answering all of them, you remember all them big buckets of money? What did we do with them? Put them in the tent, in the medical tent. Because the people collecting money, they would come back and just set the doggone things right down by the stairs. And I think I did tell them, I said, you do that again, I said, I'm going to cut the Negroes loose on your behind. And you're going to have a half a bucket instead of them big buckets. Who knows how much money was there? Who knows? But they didn't care nothing about the money. That's why you could tell that they were supported by it. They had plenty of support. And so we took the money and put it in the medical tent, right? Yeah. And then we watched the money to make sure they got the money. We didn't ask them for none of it, but it was money. It was money in there. Because you see $100 bills, 10s and 20s, and change, the things was heavy. So if you just had change and no bills, if you had 18 buckets, you had that's $1 million worth of them big old yellow, red, orange buckets full of money. And it'd be money on top of money. Anyway, that's the same day the white lady that make movies was speaking down, Susan Sarandon. And she was just sitting there on the steps like a regular. I said, that's good. That's good. I said, she's probably the only happy white lady in Hollywood. Because when you're doing something, yeah, no, I know. I'm saying is that when you're doing something like that, you don't ever read that they're going crazy or you know what I mean, they're unhappy. You know what I mean, that they've been smoking too much. They've been smoking a little weed, but that don't stop you from being a revolutionary. Anyway, no, we done had tons of experience, man, here. And the brothers always didn't understand what we was doing. I said, we go down there, don't worry. That means we're going to control the stage. Whoever comes on the stage, they're going to have to come through us, right? So technically, we're managing the whole program. Don't worry. They'll give you more time. I said, don't worry about it. Down by the White House, everywhere, we have enough time. Number one, they see all the brothers in black, right? Number two, I come up and they see me and they hear a few things I have to say, and don't talk too long because that'll take that good impression that they have. You see what I mean? No, you got to, hey, everybody, all the organizations respected where we was coming from because they could tell we're not, and the Congress lady used to be in Congress down in Georgia, the sister that they was raiding a house or had the white folks scared her to death. She was pro-Palestinian, and I'll think of her name in a minute. Her name is everywhere, we know. Yeah. No, a good lady, nice. If you notice, when we would be on the stage, we would get right behind her to make sure that ain't nobody gonna get to her. You know what I mean? The point is, all those people that did everything that they was doing it for one reason. They was doing it for money, for recognition. You take Nihad and all those guys, all those people that have all those organizations. They have satellites with 25 spots. I don't know. Last time I heard it was 28. I know ain't nobody got that many, but they might. And they're scared with all of them people, right? So our job is a job that other people may not like, but it's the best job you can have here in America. Okay. And so that's the thing, the ability to recognize and realize who you are, where you are, and what are the environmental circumstances, right? And hold on to those. If those principles are right, hold on to them no matter what other people are doing. And it'll be necessary because, see, during this process, a lot of times, if you're in it for notoriety and what have you, all those people that are liars are going to have all the mic, they're going to get it. They're going to get the mic. And they're going to get the mic, and if you fall for it, that means you will change some of your goals and aspirations to get the mic. That's why the first thing you say is, you want the mic? Here it is. That way, right? Everybody will know. They may not like where you're coming from, but they'll know they're not about the mic. You see what I mean? And their behavior. Now, I want you to try to visualize over the last decades where those people are and where we are. What they've dealt with and what we've dealt with. And how we've dealt with it too. That's important. Remember, let's say if they've been bootlicking and all of that and stealing money and getting paid on the side, that's okay. We haven't been doing that. And I want you to remember too, in the old days, all of our allies, especially visible allies, they began to recede. Because let's say the good brothers in that genre, they're headed back home. And the ones that aren't any good, a few of them are going to hang around behind because they're going to leave contacts behind. But you look and you'll see that the ones, let's say from the 90s on up into this period, remember we gave 1990 was the first note lecture that we gave about politics is like a sewer. Remember I passed those out? I passed. Politics is like a sewer. And when you come home, you smell like a sewer, but you can't smell yourself because you've been working in the sewer, right? And that's the same thing with some of our friends that, what's the little white lady, Medea Benjamin them. When they went certain places, the people over there told them, you stay there, these are your friends, you stay. We don't want you over here. We talking gangster talk over here, right? We don't want you here. And everybody know what that is. Today, it's the manifestation of defects, but it's also the manifestations of reality. You know, over a long period of time, who have stuck. Remember, 95% of ability is stickability. So we have stuck to what we've been talking about all of these times. And no matter what happens, that's the main, because when they want to change you, or they're going to make all them people famous, and you're not going to be famous. They may, you may not get but 1 or 2 phone calls a month or a year sometime. And they phone ringing all off the hook. We just have a big note thing. Our phone rung all day long. It don't ring hardly none now. It's fine. It doesn't make any difference, right? Because that's not what we was working on, and that's not what we've been about. The other thing is time, longevity. Eventually, those people are going to wear out. And all of those big shakes and everything that they have, remember what they said when they was out the ocean. We need fresh water, lower your bucket. Right where the niggas around there. Lower your bucket right where you are. You got fresh water all around you, just didn't know it. Because you couldn't see, that you so far out in the ocean, you can't even see the shore. But all that water from the Amazon is fresh, right? That means that we don't have to see the shoreline. All we have to do is know the rules, the regulations, and the guidelines of history and reality. And that's how we can make predictions about everything, because we know the cycles. These are cycles. And you want a little extra stuff? Read Quran, read Hadith, study all of that. It has the cycles. So if you predict along those cycles, you can't be wrong, because those are cycles. It's a lot and hooked it up, and that's the cycles. You don't have to have no brains. All you got to do is have enough belief to get out and say that when nobody else will. And in time, they'll be receding, and you'll be out front, if that's where you want to be. Okay. So, suicide watch. If you look at America, if you look at Zionists, you look at everybody on those teams, they're on a suicide watch. You got to grab them. Hey, man, don't cut your throat. Right? They're on a suicide watch. We got to watch them and protect them from killing themselves. And what we have to do, America is on a suicide. It don't make no difference. Just look at anything. Right, yeah, they go ballistic. The post office, I'm scared to go to the post office now.
Well, that's what I would call it.
Right.
Because they're going to take people with them.
Yeah.
Going out by themselves, they're going to make sure they take other people out. Active shooters, that's the term.
Active shooter.
Active shooters, that's what American science are.
Look, it no make no bit. If you could walk it backwards, you could say from the last couple of days, the brothers that dug their way out of the penitentiary, maximum security with a spoon. That haven't happened since Alcatraz. Last time was 1963. That's the last time that happened. On Alcatraz, they dug their way out with a spoon. Okay. With spoons. Out of a Zionist prison, not an American prison. See, in American penitentiary, they got certain rules that they gotta stick. You gotta get so much fresh air a day. Boy, but they mean about it. I have a picture of Imam Jamil in one of them pens. I saw him out at Lorton. You got your cell, and they got everything in there, the shower, and then they got this heavy, they call it wire, but it's not wire, it's metal. It's got holes in it where you can get sunshine. That's at the end of your cell. So when they open that, you can walk out and get some sunshine. Because the law says you have to get so much sunshine. These people are so cruel that it's unbelievable. You're just in another cell. It's right out there, and you're going to walk out there. This is cruelty. See, in the old days, they had the old days. They had different, in penology, I didn't mean to get on this subject, but in penology, they had the old days. I mean, those were the days where you got treated out, oh boy, in prison, in jails and debtors' prisons and all of that stuff. And desert islands and dry Torrey, they had penitentiaries, boy, that make your head swim. I'm telling you, that's really. Then they had in the 30s, the 40s and the 50s, they had prison reform. Now they're not prisons, they're correctional. When I start going through in the 50s, they were calling things correctional facilities. And all the we need is to provide the environment, and bad people can be corrected. And so that old time beating and whips and all of that was set aside. And those were only, they would come out, you might get your behind whooped real bad, but it wasn't legal. You know what I mean? And they had to give you certain things. Like you see in these old prison movies, they put you in a cell and water you down, you know what I mean? And you stay in there naked. Well, they did have, we call them strip cells. It didn't have a toilet. It had a hole in the floor. And they had they had cell here, then they had place, six. There was a space, it would be about this size. And that was another door. They could come in that door. And so if you had all the cells up in the front was what they was calling isolation and segregation. They had 3 or 4 strip cells in the back. And your dear brother would some kind of way wound up in a strip cell. And I had a homeboy, good God Almighty, Herman Brown. Me and Herman Brown, he was the same age, but I don't know how he did it. When the police would feed him, they'd have a big ping pong paddle, a paddle on a big stick, and the police would have a raincoat on. And when they came in front of his cell, they would slide it around and slip the food in like that through the little slot. Okay. But I was civilized. So, I just act up and, I do my time. Of course, now, in those strip cells, you were butt naked. You didn't have clothes on, Yeah, but don't worry, they couldn't keep you in there but 29 days. They couldn't do that. 29 days. Then they were slick. They would bring you out after 29 days, before you get to 30. They might take you out and put you in the front and let you walk around for about 30 minutes, because now you're out of the strip cells and they put your behind back. That's the way they used to do Herman Brown. And I thought I was a mess up. I said, boy, you should really, because I wouldn't do the stuff he did. He'd throw feces on the police, stuff like that. That's why they wore a raincoat. And they fed him through them doors, they fed him with a paddle, a paddle with the plate on that, and they'd stick it in there, And I said, boy, look at here. This was my friend. I don't know whatever happened to him. We grew up together because we was in a little kiddie jail, a Frico Ranch School for Boys, and I think we was in Fred C. Nellis School for Boys. And that's where Fleeta Drungle and all of them. See, all the guys who was rebellious and you'd see them on the newspaper, we all grew up together. Bunchy Carter and all those guys that got killed up there at University, UCLA in '69. Everybody, see in California, everybody that came up during our period, we all went through the same basic thing. So we all knew each other. But I used to say to Herman, I used to say, boy, I used to shake my head. Of course, I wouldn't say stop doing that. I'd sound like a fool. But what I would be saying is, boy, that guy, he's really, and it wasn't bothering him like, you know what I mean? Like, this is bothering me, and he had his hair popped up. And I said, good God Almighty. Hey, man, But they had other people, Mr. Too Sweet. I don't want to talk about all this, but I might as well. They got a place now and been there. It's called Vacaville. Have anybody ever heard of Vacaville? Vacaville is a prison medical center, but it's a prison too. In those days, it was Vacaville Medical Center. That's about a little over an hour drive from Oakland. And you've heard of lobotomies. I know y'all saw them, one of the movies about the crazy house. One Flew Over the Cuckoo, that's California. That's it. Yeah. Was they doing, what's her name's, shock treatment and stuff in there? Yeah. That's when this stuff first came out. Boy, Mr. Too Sweet, he was a cool nigga though. I'm telling you, he was from L.A. You know, he had his pocket handkerchief on the side. You know, if he was at one club, you'd have a red handkerchief. The other one, he'd have his, I think he had a blue handkerchief. But I mean, it wasn't bad in those days. Another pump weighed that man. And they sent Mr. Too Sweet to Vacaville, and he came back. We was in another penitentiary in Tracy, and he came back. He said, Mr. Too Sweet, what happened? Mr. Too, it took him about a month. He was quiet, and I said, well, what'd they do to you up there, over there? But they really, you know, they did that type of stuff to people, and they didn't. It was unbelievable how they treated people. So now it was that period where they didn't beat you to death in late 40s, 50s, 60s. They was into corrections. They had MC, California Men's Colony, where they didn't have fences and gates and all that stuff. It just new ideas.
Jobs for you when you came out.
Sometimes they had that stuff, yeah. And it was like there's no such thing as a bad boy or a bad nigga, you know. Everybody's all right. That didn't last. That lasted about 25, 30 years.
Right. I just heard something where they said it kind of worked where it lowered the recidivism rate, but then when they took it away, everything changed and people started going to once they took the jobs or the opportunity to
Right.
get jobs, it said people started going back to prison and filling the prisons up.
See, the thing about
And that was California.
oh, good God Almighty. California is known as a state of prisons. It's that known for the. When I was coming up, I knew every prison in California. And all the forestry camps, I don't know them anymore. Just like actually when I was in the federal system, I knew the federal joints. Leavenworth, you know what I mean, McNeil Island, Terminal Island, you know what I mean, Atlanta, all of that. I knew all the federal joints. Not now. You just can't keep up. It's too many. So California is known as a state of prisons. I'm going to get back to the point. The point is, we're in a certain environment here. No matter what it looks like to people outside, we're acclimatized to it. We can act in our environment. If we look at, when other people look at what we deal with, they say, ooh, that's, When we look at what they deal with, when we look at Chechnya, just the weather, or when we look at Grozny, the weather, I said, man, I ain't no fair weather revolutionaries, but it's like Alaska, not Alaska, it's frozen, like living in a refrigerator, and they walking around with just little shoes on and that, you know, like it's okay. and fighting Russians at the same time. Well, they was fighting Russians. The point is, we are accustomed to our environment here, and we haven't been doing a bad job. We have to understand, we have not been doing a bad job. It's not necessarily we've been doing a good job, but we are accustomed to the environment that we're in, and we know how to operate in our environment. Just yesterday, this wasn't me, it was somebody else. There's a supermarket, a giant, right over up Pennsylvania, right over. Okay. So this friend of ours, he's running a test all the time on everything and everybody. They don't know it though, because they don't know the test. All the time. So this test was, okay, how much surveillance is there? So, well, we'll find out. They'll find out. So anyway, they go in and they start buying stuff. And it's maybe 2-3 months ago. So they have these automatic checkouts. So you want to get an idea whether they paying attention to. So you start. Of course, this is some kind of way illegal because they take 5% off all the food that they sell. 5% they charge it. They add 5% to the charges of food for theft and everything in all the stores. They've been doing that. That's all of them agree on that. Yeah, I don't care whether you go to Safeway, it's 5% added for theft. Because they just, now, how did they come up with that number? We could trial it in court. Let's go back to the original thing. So you can check, where do you stand with the system? So this guy, what he did was, even he would come sometime with his daughter. And now he knew that everybody was collaborating against him. Or not against him, with him, for him. Because if you know what everybody's doing, they might as well be on your team. So anyway, when they go through the automatic checkout, they would just dump everything in there that they want, and maybe check 1 or 2 things. Not really. If they're checking out 10 things, they would do 6, you know what I mean, and then just pay the funds. Yesterday, the guy goes in there and he goes to the checkout. It won't check it out. Go to the next one. It won't check out. He has to go to the front where they have to check it out. But was it a big deal? Of course it's a big deal. If you backtrack, you go all the way back. First of all, there's a guard standing there when you come in. And the guard has an attitude. So you got to study him to figure out what is his attitude about. Where does he? Yesterday, now, whenever they go into the store, they're going to go to the automatic self-checkout, and they're going to load up with all kind of $1 million juices and everything. This is the thing. And so yesterday, it wouldn't work. Now, they tried to stop this without saying anything. They didn't say nothing yesterday. They tried to stop it many times. One time, the sister there, and you might This is what the guy told me. He says he might go check out stuff. And one time, a sister might come and check everything he got. But then say, go on. It don't say, you didn't pay for this, you didn't pay for this, you didn't pay for this. But that's so the person would stop. The person ain't going to stop. Absolutely not. Why? Because we want to make sure. It's called redundancy. Remember we talk about redundancy? When you think people are watching you, you're gonna rub it in their face, right? Yeah, you're gonna make them. So if you got the store, like yesterday, you could tell because two guys are like they're not openly following you, but everybody in the store they know what's going on. So you go this way. And then you got to remember now, you got to play with people. If people play with you, just play. Don't get upset. Don't get upset. No. Just have a good time. Have a good time with fitness. So they follow you around. And then if you like expensive cheeses, you might just throw it in there. And then, when you check it out, it's maybe says $15 or something. And it make $100 worth of stuff. This is what the guy is telling me. And this is for the last several months. And then, so sometimes you come in, they may have the executives in the store and the executives from somewhere else, and they're all, if this is the checkout area, they're right over there by that. And they're trying not to look at you. And you looking at them, they're there. You're getting everybody involved now. You got to remember, you got the whole store involved. The African guy, when you walk in the door, yesterday the guy told me he had a whole different attitude. He was like, we're tired of this stuff, And remember, for months he would come up, if you checking out over here, he would be way over here, my aisles away, and he would walk up and walk by, and he would stand by the checkout right over there, although he looking at you, and you just look all up in the air and go, zoom, zoom. This is what the guy was telling me. In other words, rub it in their face. This has been going on for months. But this is a good time. You got to remember now, if people play with you, you just figure out a way to play with them back. So finally, you walk in the store, of course, you walk right into the fruit section, and you walk into and you just, what's the most expensive fruit? I dump that in there, dump that, everything. Let's see, what's this Guziyaru Agawaza cheese? Just dump some of that in there. And then the guy would told me when he checked stuff out, he would put all this expensive stuff back here, and then he would go $1.25 and put it all in the thing. And he'd have maybe $100 worth of. He never left without $100. That's what he was telling me. He wouldn't leave without about $100 worth of food, but he'd always pay $10, $15, and he was taking it off of the store takes 5%. They charge everybody. When you go in, it's a 5% added tax. So he said, hey, I just want my 5%. Y'all been getting off of me for years. So because everybody do it Safeway, it don't make no difference. Read it in the manual, they got all. So anyway, and everybody be involved, even when they have family, their family, because this guy, he was relating this to his family yesterday. And you just have a good time because everybody's involved. And if didn't nobody know what he was doing, his family would let them know. No doubt about it. So now every time they give a little hint, it ain't nobody there but him. But anyway, yesterday, boy, he had, not yet. We'll go back a ways. Go in and just load up the cart. And he was saying, I'm sure there's a camera up there. I'm sure they wouldn't have the store where you could just walk in and they trust niggas to scan all. I said, and at this store, they don't even they just stand there and look around, help. And I said, they're going to have to get rid of this thing because, I'm not watching the niggas and nothing. I said, but there's one, they have another giant over there. They kind of watch and keep what you. That one over there, Pennsylvania Avenue, good God Almighty. I said, they got to do their research to see how this thing is working. You know what I mean? Because if you know the Negro and he got a big package of from the meat market, $25. You think he's going to scan that? Heck no. You just dump it in there, right? Or dump something that costs $1 on top of that and scan that and put that in the bag. Unless they're standing there watching, right? Like watching, the Negro's going to do that. He got to. They're all Negroes. Everybody go to the store is Negro. Everybody okay. So it's only 98% Negroes. That's okay. I mean, it's unbelievable. Whatever they saving by having that automatic, now that's helping employment because they're going to count pretty soon. They're going to say, we can't afford to have these non-checkout, So if you beat them all the time, well, if they beat them all the time. Anyway, back to the story. This is a study. This is actually a study. That's why they're talking about it. I talked to the guy and he said, yes, all right, to tell everybody. So it's a study of how much time and energy are they spending on you? Okay, what's the deal between the store and the government? What's the deal between the guard that knows something is going on? He comes over and stand by the thing to intimidate you so you won't do no wrong. All you do is hold it up in the air, yeah, like this, let everybody see it and scan it backwards, and there goes. This here costs $50. Here it goes, we put the $1 scan on it. That's what's been happening. This has been going on. You got to have fun. But you got to have fun and you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what's their limit. Where are they going to go with this? You know, pretty soon the feds get to them and they talk to them. They got this guy covered, da, 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 da. And all of them know. So you could call all of them in the court, especially the African guard, especially some of the people in the checkout, especially the people in the management. You can call them in the court. If 80% of them lie so much, 1% of them tell the truth, yeah, he don't know no better. He say, yeah, I've been knowing you, we watch you, we had to all the time. That's what we do. Okay, here's the point. Remember we talk about have fun. We talk about know your environment. So, what is the relationship between the federal government, the cases you got in California, and the behavior in a store right here? You have to hook it up, and it has to make sense. And when you do it, what is the relationship between the bank? And you could do this, and you can't do that, and all of it's illegal. Redundancy. And you do it to them over and over again, not once or twice. Once or twice could be you just got away with it. What about we hold it up? Yeah. And then backwards over and over again. Now, yesterday the guy told me they didn't do nothing. They just turned the machine where they couldn't scan it. Number 13 don't work. The people behind you, it worked. And then go over to the next one. It don't work. You have to go to the little checkout in the front. That's the people saying we're tired. We can't stand any more of this. It's going too far. Well, it's okay. Going too far. We've already proved our case. We proved our case a long time ago that our community is under super surveillance and always have been. And we just want to do a few things to make sure where is it at. I remember just running today. Well, it wasn't a run, but it was a, chug up a hill, chug around. Nice. How do they feel? They feel a little uncomfortable. So at the time that we do it, we've been doing it all that time. Then it's come a white boy, come another white boy. Then you cruising up the hill, just take it easy. Okay, here comes a Negro lady. Later on, a few minutes later, another Negro lady. Okay, so you already know who's on those trails. You know who you see. What happened to the Latino lady with the dogs? You know what I mean? Maybe pulled off. Haven't seen her. I don't know when. What happened to the white boy that always chugs along? What happened to the people on the bicycle that chugs along? Okay, since we've been doing this stuff since the hills for the last 40 years, we have a feel. You know what I mean? We have a feel of so today was a nice day. It was a nice day. It was a full load. That means they're trying to figure out something. But we are tired of it. We're not trying to figure out. We've given them their chance to all the stuff they want to do or they want to talk about. So we're going out to California. We'll, alhamdulillah, we got a nice little bit of help, but we'll raise a few more dollars, pay our taxes. We're going out there and we're going to work. And we're just going to present what we have, and we're going to call who we have, and we're going to go into court. And I think we done moved from $200 million maybe to $300 million. You may say, ain't nobody going to give a nigga that much money. You never know. You got to ask for it. After we lay out what they've been dealing with us, and we're only going to lay out the things that are provable. Not all of what we talk this, that, and other. No, only the provable things. Right? We have a certain idea about that. The things, we feel that things are moving so fast downhill that boss man is close. It looks like that. Anybody look at it, it looks like that. Okay. We've been offering boss man our approach, the Mandela approach, for decades. Anything you can think of, la tatraba, no reproach, no results. Okay, that's fine. That anybody can understand this, you know what I mean, that's clear of mind and heart. Okay, no response. That's their business. Okay. So where we are is that we're at the end of a certain line. We've given lectures out in the one, who's better in speech than one that calls men to Allah, that work righteous deeds, saying I ain't even al-Muslimin, and then the rest. And we've given all the hints and lectures on kindness and friendship and one to be a part of. Now, boss man haven't been a nice guy at all. He just haven't been nice. But there's a concept of how we talked about the Mandela approach. Okay, the Mandela approach, it gets you government actions, and then the niggas steal everything, and then they run the country in the ground, and you get a dumb president. What's his name? That guy, he's got to be crazy. One of the women that he's having sex with, I had his name on the tip of my tongue, old bald-headed guy. Zuma. The lady have AIDS. And he rolling right along like it ain't nothing, like he's Superman. I don't care. So them niggas hey man. Right? And since 94, since the first election, everybody that was children then and born a little after that, they're considered born frees. They don't remember apartheid. All they remember is if I study and I go to university, I can get a job. And like one of the brothers that was going all over the country raising money, he said, see that lady there? She's a police, had a gun, badge, everything. They're having a marathon or something. And she's directing traffic. He said, she's born free. And so he was explaining, he was an Indian guy. In fact, he worked with, what's the name, joint in Durban. What's his name, used to have all those lectures about Christianity, I think his name. I mean, he's right there. If I show you, he's in the front office. They had a big show there. Anyway, but the point is, they all work for a certain people. The same people they work for are the same people that invited us and Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui and all of that. And they're the same people that when Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui passed away, the next time I got there, they had changed up and Dr. Siddiqui had said what he said. They had flipped up. So Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui said that in 96. When I got there again in 97, because I used to go there a lot, 97, 98, 99, every 2-3 times a year I was rolling in South Africa and out. They changed. They changed. And everybody that was with them changed. So what that meant is that I reason Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui said what he said is because he realized the same thing every good leader, that he was surrounded. And the way I was acting, he said, this nigga here is not one of them. And he was right. But that crew, the whole crew, the minute Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui passed away, they did some floor showing and all that, but not following anything about what he was about. That's our position here in America. That's the movement's position. So we have to have our own little things that we do that are interesting to us, right? The outline is clear. But we have to still have some of the things that inspire us. This resistance movement or resistance organization has to have some special patterns of behavior because they have to meet the institutions that they have their special continuous patterns of behavior. Oppressors act a certain way. They just always do, right? In order to resist the oppressors, at each stage in time, you have to be bathed in the historical and the religious process of Quran, Sunnah, and all of those things, and then you have to add your own special ingredients. That's what we do here. That's why we're here. That's why we're not sad, or that's why we're not mad, and that's why we're not despondent. Other people saw a glimpse of what we talking about. They said, "Hey, man, forget that." And they either quit or sold out. But we didn't do that. We're not going to do it. We didn't have plenty of time to do it. So this is a resistance movement. Remember when Hillary Clinton lost the election? And they asked us on TV, "What are you going to do now?" She said, "Join the resistance." Well, this is not white folks. Our resistance is like the resistance in France when they was fighting Nazis and they was getting killed and strung up. You know what I mean? The type of resistance that we have is the resistance that existed behind enemy lines during every struggle. It was not only in Europe, in the Philippines, they had a resistance movement. You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't go and turn into the Japanese and go on the Bataan March. There was other Americans that stayed in the Philippines that was part of the resistance movement. They stayed in the jungle. They fought in the jungle until the days of liberation came. Okay, we have a psycho-spiritual resistance movement here, whatever you want to call it. We got a lot of that. Psycho-spiritual. We're not scared of the white man. It's just like you can deal with boss man so long that you just don't have everybody else be scared. You just, "I ain't scared. I ain't nothing I can do. I'm just not scared of the cracker. I ain't nothing I can." Now, if he get to twisting body parts too much, that's all, boss man. You don't want to hurt no poor old moles. You know what I mean? That's till he stopped twisting. You know, no sense sitting there. I mean, you know what I mean? Resistance is not being crazy, you know. Right? So if boss man twist on body parts, got water hoses coming out of the niggas' ears and everything. Oh, boss man. Why? Because there's nothing that we could tell boss man anyway. Nothing. Not a single word. We don't know anybody's business, nor do we want to know anybody's business. Everything we talk about, yes, it comes out correct, but it is anybody have access to all of that information. Everybody have access to it. We ain't went to nobody, and we wouldn't allow, let's say, Iranian. We wouldn't allow no Iranian. He gonna drop. No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm not Hashim Alauddin. I don't want to hear nothing special. Right? I don't want to hear nothing special. I figured out myself. That way I can say what I want. Right? And if boss man get tired, no matter what he do, you can't tell him nothing anyway but what you've been doing in all the lectures. And that's enough. Can you imagine the boss man have to sit here for the last 40 years and hear lecture after lecture, and it's right on the money, and it's not getting less accurate, it's getting more accurate. It's getting more accurate than, it was accurate in those days, but it's getting more and more accurate. Okay? So there comes a time when you say, okay, boss man, I done did the best I could. We're just going to go. And so back to Oakland we go. We're going to deal with the homelessness, right? We're going to deal with, as we have more access, we're going to try to deal with movie stars and all of those people to, to get active like the lady Susan Sarandon was. There's tons of white folks. When you watch Michael Moore and them other white folks, they got white folks that just waiting for a chance to go out and say something. No, we're going to work with people that make movies who are going to say, hey, do it like they do them old westerns. Things were the same all the time. At the end of the western, the bad guys do all this stuff. Then they're going to have a big chase scene. Remember them old westerns on Saturday? They always just shooting and just carrying on. Always. We want to influence our environment, and we want to influence the people in it. So we're going to use the money we have, or the money that we get, we're going to use that as an advertisement, like not as so-and-so got so many millions from the government. Well, that means that they'll want to see you on this show or that show, so we're just going to raise them up to the level. They'll be shocked because we won't be doing all this kind of talk that we're doing. We'll be doing that, but it'll be done in a way that we start with the people and we pass out what they can stand, and we want to help the world we're living in. Okay. That's basically, that's our job right now. Boss man is not too smart. Boss man is not too smart. Well, what it is, and I don't blame him. If I had done as much wrong as he did, I wouldn't trust nobody either. Right? And so, and he have niggas, his niggas won't tell him no better. They won't say, oh, we did our little test too, boss man. This guy is, he wants to help. Okay, what does that mean? That means that we have no idea how much time is left in this dispensation. But that's not our, at every time in history when prophets and messengers came, that was at the end of their dispensation of time. This end of time is ours. Okay, whether the oceans boil over or whatever happened in this dispensation, right? The earth is going to be here another 4.5 billion years. And in a million years, the earth will be back the way, sometime they have them programs on TV, what the earth will look like if everybody's gone in 1,000 years, right? What it'll look like in 10,000 years. And it doesn't make a difference, even if half of it's true. The earth is going to be here, and it's going to replenish itself, right? There's certain things that's going on. There's a lot of people on earth. They're not cleaning it properly. They're not doing nothing. It'll support as many people, but we don't know. The white man might bake a virus to get rid of people, and he didn't. You don't know. Yeah. But throughout history, it's always some of those type of things that come through. During the Ottoman Empire, during all these, and other times they had bubonic plagues. People had to work and suffer. And I asked one of the rabbis the ones wear all their fur coats and everything in July. And I just asked him, he didn't answer the question fully. I said, I said, we make wudu and wash up and stuff for prayer. So we was asking him, what's your process? He didn't tell me exactly. He said, because we used to wash, you could tell that's on his mind. He said, they thought we had some kind of magic protection against, and he was talking about the bubonic plague, that 13th century type thing. Yeah. Since they used to wash all the time, they didn't catch it. And the people was worried about them. The Jews is up to something. The Jews didn't know what was going on. That was before microbiology and all of that. But now they know, man, we was washing up for, and the Muslims the same thing. Even the plagues, Constantinople and all that. Under those periods, the Muslims and the Jews didn't do too bad. But the Christians bathing once every day used to, hey man, I don't know how they stood it, because the Queen of England said, I used to bathe once a month even if I didn't need it. Can you imagine what they smelled like? And not nowadays smelled like, but those days, good God Almighty. No, even, well, that's what the hadith say about the Muslims. The reason you had to bathe once a week, try to wash your stuff, and use fragrances, because sitting in a little hot masjid, hey man, it's mentioned in hadith that that's not the reason, but we wash because it's healthy. But anyway, the point was, they thought that there was some mysticism that they was using to protect themselves and to kill all the other people in Poland and everything. It was just washing, just simple washing. Okay. Let me say a few more things before we move. We talked about lower your bucket. Rise to the occasion of our time. And that's what we're trying to do. The occasion of our time. Creative avoidance. We're not going to practice any creative avoidance. Creative avoidance is like if we try to figure out a way around doing what our job is, and we're not going to do that. Just what we think. If they practice creative avoidance by just slamming the door, okay, I can understand them doing that, because after they've treated people a certain way, they automatically think, if we had that position over them, what we did, if they get it over us, is what they're going to do. And it's guilt. But the world it can't function under they're not doing anything to clean up and use any of the modern technology. They're not having a mass cleanup and tree planting by the billions. They're not doing that. We don't know any better, but those are the things that we would have to do to rescue the earth right now. In fact, that idiot down in Brazil is known as the lungs of the world. This is the idiot down there. Tell them, no, just burn everything down and plant whatever them little big gabans be. I don't know, whatever they are. Okay, Also, what I'm saying is we're going to do what we can within our sphere of activity. If it catches the right wind, we'd be happy to share and to manipulate, not for a bad way, but to use everything in Hollywood, writers, philanthropists. What are you going to do with the money you have? Scientists, sociologists, is harmonizing everything for the good of the world, not for humanity, because humanity is basically lost it, you know. Okay, so that's basically our job, and that's what we're going to do. That's the period we're in. We've already extended ourselves as much as we can and told everybody we'd be happy to participate. It's their business. So we use the present situation to get to where we want to go. Okay. Going to California, it says they put together a temporary plan, part of an overall strategy. So a temporary plan for us don't mean temporary, it means long range. What we have to do, and I'd like to say at this time, this may sound new, but this is not new. We've been into this climatology. Remember the old, we've been into this in writings for over 20 years. And where we are now, we've always been here. Not always, but for the last 35 or 40 years, we realized that where the world seemed to be headed, that ain't gonna work. But we couldn't step out too far and too fast ahead of everybody, because if they didn't understand what we was talking about at that slow speed, if we came out with what we really thought and felt, they would say, them niggas is practicing witchcraft, a crazy craft. It ain't gonna work. You gotta love humanity. You can't love humanity. They ain't worth loving. You can't do kindness and openness and all of that crap. That ain't gonna work. Okay, we are gonna do it. We're gonna do it because it fits into what it looks like be a good mode for us. Okay? In the final analysis, it doesn't make a lot of difference. You know why? Because 1 million years from now, this probably won't matter. 1 million years from now, it probably won't. All we can do is what we can during our period, right? That's exactly what we're trying to do. And we ain't gonna panic either. Okay, everybody have friends, families, and all of that. They have to think about where is this leading us? If we keep going where we're going now, right? Where's it going to lead us in 1 year, 5 years? If you can think 10 or 15 years, where is this behavior going to lead us in 20 years from now if we get there? The behavior we got now. Add in the forest fires, the floods, this thing down in Louisiana, which usually kill everybody in Louisiana, it didn't start killing folks till it got up here. And I don't know how we got past, right around here, they had all kind of, I was watching the news, I said, this is happening in D.C., right? I mean, it was like, I said, good God Almighty. And we just come in, have our little programs, and it's like, good God. But Rattle, Forestville, and other places, they was, I said, that happened, and I said, good God Almighty.
Well, it goes to what you were saying. They kind of were prepared for something because they've been through it before.
Right.
So, but up here, they weren't prepared
It happened so quick. New Jersey, they all sitting in the basement watching TV, and all of a sudden, whoosh, here come the water rolling in. Or anywhere up there where they're not used to all of that. Okay, that's why when we make a statement, go back 5 years. No, not. Go back to when we was on 8th Street and we was talking about floods of biblical proportions and all of that then. And look where we are now. Okay. And ain't nobody has not one emergency meeting nowhere on fixing the climate. Not one. Okay, everybody. Emergency meeting downtown in the city hall, emergency meeting at the state capitol. Not one, right? The people is crazy. They're absolutely crazy. If they were to examine themselves, they would be absolutely crazy. Okay, therefore, we're going to do what we can. And because it's not we're going to cut down on so many emissions, and it ain't going to be that dumb stuff. The people is crazy. Right? You got to first stop. We don't have the laws that say we got to stop. They got dumb people. We don't have to wear masks. That's against our freedom. So it's bugs floating around. Hell, we're free. You don't have a right to tell us, just because China said you're going to wear a mask. Everybody said that's right. And they cut out, they ain't got but two people died in the last 50 years. Right? Right?
Yeah. Try to test it in China.
Yeah, and the white man here's the one took it over there. Probably not the white man, but somebody here probably took it over there and tried to kill him off, and it bounced back over here. Okay. What time is it up there? 7:30. And what time is it? Looks Maghribish.
Yeah, Maghrib. Yeah, it's Maghrib.
Okay. Well, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha astaghfiruka atubu ilayk. We got too much. I'll try to fit some of it in tomorrow, inshallah. Are there any questions or comments?
It's on actually the topic of China. He asked, do you think mainland China will retake Taiwan? And what would be Boss Man's reaction? Do you think America will go to war with China over Taiwan?
No, absolutely not. But I don't think China. Not that that have anything. I don't think China is even. I don't think mainland China is worried about Taiwan to take it back. To take back. Well, it used to be called Formosa. I don't think China's main problem is not becoming a bad guy like Boss Man. That's their main problem. So we're going to get around and try to talk to them and tell them get back to where they used to be back in the 70s when you help people, not fisabilillah, but for whatever cause they help them. Because you can tell that some greed and some arrogance and some of the things, I would call it petty colonialism. It's not gone. It's not. I think you can talk to them and shake them up and get them back on. But they're behaving like anybody would if 40 years ago you couldn't feed yourself and now you just done exploded. That's hard to handle. That's hard to handle. The, the people that was flat broke and they go out and have a wildcat strike on oil or something, they go crazy. Negroes that win the lottery or anybody, stuff like that, instant wealth. And China has worked for everything they have. But after you get through feeding yourself and da-da-da-da, we've all been through it, this thing about world domination kicks in. And it would kick in on them for real. And so our hope is that we can point out in a friendly way, the original goals of Chinese characteristics, how to remake the world with Chinese characteristics, what Chinese characteristics really are. How you got here, and now what's your responsibility? Simple. It adds up to this. And you've been through this, you got four and a half, almost 5,000 years of written history. You got it. Okay, now you're gonna make the mistake that people have made in the past over and over again, or are you going to control yourself and try to do right? That's where China is right now. That's maybe not the question the brother asked, but that's the answer I'm giving. China has to use self-control right now. Africa has bad leadership. It have niggas that steal everything, and they're gonna have to do good for the sake of doing good. They're gonna have to. You got a lot of room in China. Bring all the Chinamans back home from Africa. They don't need to be there. They'll outwork the niggas. There's nothing. The people, they're different client. They're different. Whenever you see China and them places, they always march. They always, you know what I mean? They had to. There's too many of them. They've always been, There's certain peoples that regimentation. They're not against it much because they know this is the way their society works. It's not lack of freedom. It's not, hey man, what are you talking about? This is socialism with Chinese characteristics, right? And it's working. Okay. But they have to share those characteristics so that they turn into Negro or African or Euro characteristics, because each people have to adopt those workable principles to themselves. And Africans, the first thing we realize that why Africans don't really work hard than they do in China and other places, and the Germans goose step. Why do they do it naturally? You study peoples and they do certain things that, okay. Well, if you live in a society where you could throw seeds out the window and they grow, and you don't have to do nothing, you go maybe hunt a couple of animals, and all the fruit is growing everywhere, right? It don't grow one time of the year. It grows, something is growing all the time, right? And so if you grow up in that type of environment, if you see it, and even when you come into a mechanized environment, you're still in an unmechanized way. When a Chinaman goes to Africa, he sees a paradise. Water. Everything is here, right? Okay. What the Chinaman does in Africa, he can do it in China. Let him go back to China and plant gardens everywhere. Let him cover the desert with trees and figure out how to get water to the trees. And when you start getting water back, then all this other stuff grows because it brings the clouds and it started raining. Okay. So China, the brother's asking about China. China is at a real critical period in history. It's at a real critical period in history. Because it's getting big and everybody clapping and can't nobody stop them. That is dangerous. Boss man can't stop him because boss man's headed down. Everything, you don't have to worry about everything boss man do, finished. Everything the Israelis do, finished. They gone. You know, so nobody has to do anything to them. But China is different. It's on the ascendancy. And remember, it says that Allah sent this thing around to everybody to see how you act with it. Okay. China is getting a little slick. We have a proposal, just write off all the debt, except make them pay back 20%, something like that. Not too much. They ain't going to pay that back, you know. But might as well keep that on the books. You know what I mean? Let Africans do the work on, if they have a railroad going through, don't say they can't do the work. Teach them how to run them railroads at 100 and something miles, 200 miles an hour, whatever it is, right? The railroad from Mombasa to Nairobi, teach the Africans how to do it. Don't say we got to have Chinese mechanics and everything. Teach the Negroes how to do it, right? And have somebody float through every night. No, we just running around, just laughing and talking and do a little checking and go back home, right? Just say, oh, you could have squeezed a little oil on this one, you could have squeezed, and gone back home where you belong. You don't belong in Africa. The Chinese look exactly like the Europeans used to look. They don't know it, though. They don't know that they look European in Africa. They don't know when African women are cooking over a stove and holding a Chinese baby, what it looks like. I know what it looks like. It's colonialism. They can call it what they want. No, we love Africans. That's all right. It's still colonial. She, the black woman, is holding a Chinese baby, right? And stirring a pot for you. And the African trying to sell a natural basket of fruit, and the Chinese can give them 2 baskets for half price. Because they used to raising stuff in China, and there's super big stuff, and they mechanized. And they hired the Africans to do it. Just do like this. Colonialism. So, colonialism. Yeah, it's colonialism. I mean, you know what it looks like. So, but remember, we have to explain to the Chinese. It's like, it's not they don't know, but this stuff slips up on you, man. It slips up on you, and you know, greed, arrogance, wealth. You know, like I say, it's just like a nigga winning the lottery. He won the lottery, and he the biggest thing, the smart. So if the Chinamans couldn't hardly eat 40 years ago, they ran a scheme on Boss Man, which Boss Man deserved. That's why Boss Man is mad at China, because the Chinamans is not accepting democracy and all of that stuff. Boss Man thought, you got to remember now, Boss Man's thinking, if I give them, everybody comes to liberal democracy, if we make sure they get all of this, we're going to make sure they get that. Chinese said, well, we'll take it, but we got to have the transfer of technology. If we're going to make Ford cars, we're going to have to know how to do all this stuff, the plastics, everything. So boss man and transferred all the technology over there to China, and the Chinese could make whatever they want. They could put ching chang chong on it, and it's a Ford. Don't make no difference. They know how to make it. Right? You could stay here or you could go home, but we already know how to make this. And historically, anybody that's getting behind, hey man, we are gonna outrun you. They are on everything. Because they flow. The Chinese believe in Confucianism and all kind of stuff that they ain't talking about. But we got to convince them that your socialism with Chinese characteristics is good for China. Now you want to help the Negro with Negro characteristics. He can't stand too many bribes. If you bribe him, he can't stand it. Because he's a nigger. He can't do nothing about it. You know, Negroes are Negroes. Africans, hey man, the white man, one thing about him, he used to leave a few crumbs for niggas. But nigger dictators, they jump out of one of them big Benzes and a little baby fixing to put a little something in his hair, snatch it out and get, what? I don't know what, hey man. Africans are the kindest people in the world, kind, friendly. But when they go bad, which mixing Europeanism with Africanism is not working. It's not working. And you're not getting nothing but dictators. Dictator after dictator after dictator. They're not the African chief that used to live in the village with everybody. They've been doing 1,000 years. The chief never went bad. This is people. The old time, I'm the chief and these are our people. The last one that you can see that is in Botswana right now. Because the daddy, well, the one that passed away a while ago, the one that married the white woman, he was a chief. And even when you see the movie, he was going around looking out for the people, because that's what a chief do. And he would say, our people, we're doing it, right? He was groomed for that, and that's what he thought about it. And his son got a little bit of it, the one is light skinned from his mama. He might have a little piece of it, but I don't know what's going on over there. They having something. But he would still have, if he even have 25%, that's a little bit. The other people, if you get people like Mandela, those are blessed people. But you get, he was for the people. But people around him are like, if you wanted to see people 10, 15 years ago starving to death, standing around them big barrels, when it's cold, you would go and look at the people that was in the bush with them, that fought with them. When I first went to Africa, if you wanted to find the Mau Maus, they was highway robbers. In Kenya, they was highway robbers. Jomo Kenyatta had turned on them. They gave their life for it. They gave their life for it. And the same thing with the brothers. Shoot, the ANC, the PAC, all of them were, when you ain't got no money, the brothers they're not bad. But when you get a lot of power and a lot of money floating around, it's been bad. It's bad business. It's not only bad, it's sad. I'm telling you, from seeing it firsthand, it's the saddest thing that you've ever run across, to see people taking things that they don't even need or they don't even have no use for. They're just taking it. And the slaughter The wars of African on African, if you think black on black crime is here, and you get them child soldiers slaughtering people, they hook them up on cotton and all that other dope they got over there. They got dope in Africa too. You know, they got plenty of dope, I'm telling you. You just stay over there long enough and you'll be high as a kite. Okay, that is a tragedy, and China should not take advantage of it. They should remember what they talk about all the time. Their 100 years of humility, the Opium War, and everybody dividing up their country. But when you start having money, you know, I'll close with this. Does anybody remember, I don't know, the saying about the bald-headed man, what was it? It's the hadith. The leper. Right? Well, they gave whatever it was.
Blind man, yeah, I think it was a blind man.
The blind man, yeah. The blind man's the only one that came out any good. The man, the leper, ain't you the guy that, first they get what you want? I want a valley full of sheep, and they just sheep everywhere. What you want? I want cows everywhere. What you want? Something or other. So this is a story, but it's true. You know, hey man, I remember when people used to stay away from you because you was bald-headed and everything. What? That wasn't me. I've been rich. I've been having money all my life. That's the way niggas talk to me. Nigga, I've been having money. I've been having money since day one. I ain't never been broke. And he probably don't remember. Nigga, let me tell you something now. And he got his hands like this. I've been having money since day two. You know what I mean? Then, well, what about you? Can I get a little something? What? I'm sorry right now. I can't. Well, you got all them cows there, you know. Don't I remember you? Didn't you used to be the poorest nigga in town? Me, poor? I ain't never been poor. Shoot, man, I've been having money. Look at him. I've been having money since day one. But people wasn't talking to you. You had leprosy. Didn't you have leprosy or something? Leprosy, man, you talking about somebody else. Leprosy, that's poor niggas have leprosy. You know, you look like a poor nigga. You may have leprosy. I ain't never had none. Well, if that's true, then oh my goodness, maybe it's something you get back the same way. What about you, Blindy? Hey man, I was blind and Allah hooked me up. Anything you want, you can take it. You know. And that's the only one that come out of. This is the way people are. I mean, you got to get with them and watch the cycle. And I'll close with this. See, the cycle of going up and down, you could see it if you were in Hollywood and other places and in day-to-day Negro life. In the hustling life, niggas be having money today, and then they hit a bad thing, and they finished. And then some of them hit another streak. Some people go up and down 2-3 times, but they just like elasticity in a rubber ball. After a while, it uses bounceability, the ability to bounce back. After a while, they just lose it. They ain't got the courage or something other to try again. Okay. So we have to use all of those things, man. And not be too hard on the human being, because that stuff run people crazy. And I'll close with this: the gladdest thing I've ever been glad of is having a chance to have money in the early stages, where more money than I was going to use or needed to do anything with. I'm glad that happened, because Ain't nothing there. Money, girls. You see where I live? I live down there in the basement. I don't have nothing down there. I don't have nothing down there. And I don't want nothing down there. I wouldn't take nothing down there. Yeah, yeah. I don't have a mattress. Well, I got a few little rubber things. But the mattress was giving me a backache, and I just had it sitting on the platform anyway, so because water come in the basement, so you got to have it a little off the ground, or you don't want to be waking up like the people up in New Jersey and drowning. Anyway, dear believers, to go through that stuff and to know what it is good, because you know what it is. I don't know how it affects other people, because if they haven't, maybe I was just lucky that I wasn't a materialist. I thought I was, and I thought I would like it, but I just realized long time, I said, I'm not a materialist. I'm just not that. And I don't need that. But I got enough to where and this maybe 0.5% of the people get enough of this world, so they say, oh, that ain't nothing. Most everybody is usually trying to get something else. I'm glad to have had all that stuff. Is there any more questions or comments? Okay, akula kali hada, astaghfirullah.